Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's session. Under pressure and in control, how leading workshops are protecting margin and winning customer loyalty. Thanks for joining us today, whether you're tuning in from an independent garage, a multi-site workshop group, a specialist repairer or a fast fit chain. Whoever you are, we built today's session with you in mind. I'm Richard Jenkins, Proposition Manager here at Clipboard, and I look after our collection and delivery portfolio. So anything that helps you get remote teams moving, keep your customers in the loop, or make jobs run smoothly from booking through to handover.
And I'm Lydia Smith. I'm the Proposition Manager for our garage management portfolio. So my focus is everything that happens behind workshop doors, from the status of your workshop, electronic vehicle health checks, job cards, technician workflows, improving upsell opportunities, and everything in between. So between us today, we just want to give you a really practical view of what's happening in automotive servicing right now, where margin is quietly leaking, and how leading workshops are regaining control without ripping out the systems you've already invested in.
Absolutely, and we're just going to do a quick bit of housekeeping before we dive in. Please drop your questions in the chat as we go, and we'll get to as many as we can. The session today is being recorded, so you get a copy afterwards, along with a few resources.
So what are we actually going to cover today? The theme's really simple. It's all about how leading workshops are protecting margin and winning customer loyalty. Because let's be honest, independent workshops are navigating one of the toughest trading environments in years. Prices on parts are moving, labor costs are climbing, your technicians are harder to hold on to, and customers are expecting faster turnarounds, clearer communication, and more transparency than ever.
Yeah, exactly. And that combination is quietly eroding margin. Bays look busy, but jobs aren't always earning what they should be. Labour time goes unrecovered, parts usage slips, and profitability takes a hit. It's rarely one big issue, it's hundreds of small ones that stack up across a workshop in a day.
So today we're walking through a couple of different themes. So we're talking about protecting job level profitability and stopping that margin leaking through underpriced work, maximizing bay utilization and keeping your technicians productive, driving retention and repeat business with your customers. And we're also going to take a look at our solutions in action with a product demo. The big message we want you to take away today is this: you don't need to overhaul your entire tech stack to get back in control. It's all about layering the right visibility and mobility on top of what you've already got and doing it in a way that pays back quickly. Before we get into the how, we're just going to spend a couple of minutes on the why, because the market backdrop is an important part of this story. And the main headline to that is that automotive workshops are under increasing pressure from every angle at once. You've got parts prices which are continuing to fluctuate, labor costs are rising, skilled technicians are harder to recruit and retain, and your customers are becoming more selective about when and how they spend on vehicle maintenance.
And the result of all that is a more challenging environment where profitability, efficiency, and customer retention are harder to maintain. But it's not all bad news, because to respond, many workshops are focusing on gaining better visibility across jobs, improving efficiency in their workshops, and making smarter decisions across labour and parts.
So let's take a look at some of the key trends which are shaping the servicing market right now.
First, some really important long-term drivers. Vehicle age is fueling steady aftermarket demand. Older vehicles are driving more out of warranty repairs and ongoing maintenance work across all regions. So the demand is there and it's stable. The question is whether workshops are set up to capture it profitably.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, we're seeing that electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles, their growth is genuinely reshaping that demand in your workshop. So independent workshops are having to adapt really quickly to electric and hybrid fleets, with those PHEV servicing running around 35% more complex than conventional vehicles, which means a lot more time, more training, more certified equipment, and a real risk to your business if you're not ready for that demand.
Yeah, and convenience is emerging as the next big differentiator. With price competition largely exhausted, services like pick-up and drop-off, and even ghost service offerings where vehicles are collected, repaired and returned without customer involvement are growing fast. EMEA is leading on convenience-led models, but over 40% of workshops still haven't made convenience a priority, which is a huge untapped opportunity.
Yeah, and one really important statistic that we found is that independent workshops are still the destination of choice for at least 50% of consumers around the world, from China to France to the USA and to the UK. But BEV adoption is starting to shift that, particularly in places like Germany, where more drivers are heading to OEMs over warranty and expertise concerns. So the game is really on to prove that independent workshops can handle those electric vehicle and hybrid work as well as anyone.
So, bringing that to life, here's how we'd summarise the market reality for automotive workshops right now. Vehicle age is fueling steady aftermarket demand, older vehicles driving more out of warranty repairs. EV and hybrid vehicle growth is reshaping workshop demand. Independent workshops are adapting to that 35% more complex vehicle servicing requirement. And convenience is the next big differentiator, with price competition largely exhausted and things like pick-up and drop-off or ghost servicing emerging as fast differentiators in the marketplace. EMEA leads on convenience-led servicing models, and independents remain the workshop of choice, but original equipment manufacturers are gaining ground in electric vehicles. At least 50% of consumers around China, France, Germany, UK and the USA still prefer independence.
So pulling that all together, you've got steady demand, but it's changing shape. So there's more complexity per job, there's more competition for electric vehicle work, there's higher customer expectations around convenience and communication, and the same margin pressure that everyone else is feeling. And that's a lot to handle with, spreadsheets, whiteboards, and disconnected systems.
Which handily brings us to the next section, where all of this actually shows up in the day-to-day of a workshop and what leading businesses are doing differently to stay in control.
Next, we're going to speak to Hannah Gilbank, who is an experienced sales and account manager who works with our automotive customers. And we're just going to talk through some of the challenges that she's seeing in these conversations with customers. So, Hannah, one thing we're hearing a lot about is margin pressure. Are customers telling you that it's getting harder to protect profitability?
Absolutely. Rising supply costs, increased competition, and more price-sensitive customers are creating a real squeeze on margins. And what's interesting is where it actually shows up. It's rarely one big loss. It's a mixture of labour time that never gets recovered, parts usage that slips, and really that jobs quoted are on a gut feel rather than actual cost. Where the bays look busy in the workshop, it can feel productive, but the numbers at the end of the month just don't reflect that. The customers who are protecting margin best are the ones who can see profitability at the job level, not just at a month end, because by then it's just too late to do anything about it.
We know that skilled technicians are getting harder to recruit and hold on to than ever. Is that changing how your customers are running their workshop day to day?
Yeah, massively. When you can't easily recruit people, the only option left is getting more out of the team you already have. So the conversation shifted from how do we hire to how do we make sure the technicians we've got are on the right work or at the right time. The frustration I hear most from managers can feel when a day-to-day has gone wrong, but they can't always explain why. For example, a job may overrun, as a part didn't arrive, a bay could be sat empty for 2 hours while someone waited on an answer. Those small gaps can add up to real lost hours across a week. There's a retention angle too. I mean, technicians get frustrated when they're chasing parts, rekeying information, or waiting around. Give them a smooth day where the work flows and the admin is light, they're far more likely to stay and be productive. So visibility isn't just an efficiency story here. It's a people story. The workshops with a clear visibility of job status, bay utilisation, and who's working on what are the ones recovering more billable time without adding a single head.
We've spoken, around convenience being a major factor for consumers visiting garages and workshops. How is that expectation shaping how your customers are looking at digital transformation? Are they finding it difficult to offer the level of service that consumers now expect?
Yes, and I'd say it's the fast-moving expectation gap right now, really. Price competition is largely exhausted, so convenience has become the next real differentiator. Consumers want to book online at 10 p.m. when it's convenient for them, get updates without having to chase, and in some cases have the vehicle collected and then returned. Over 40% of workshops still haven't made convenience a priority, so there's a genuine gap opening up between those who have and those who haven't. Where customers struggle is that convenience looks like an admin issue, but actually it could be a workshop issue. You can't confidently offer online booking if you can't see what your bay capacity is, technician availability, and what part lead times are in real time. So it comes back to visibility. Once you have that, offering convenience stops feeling risky and starts feeling like a competitive advantage.
On average, we're finding that garages aren't actually offering a huge number of options to customers when it comes to parts. Do you think there's more opportunity there for upselling?
Definitely. And it's probably the biggest untapped margin in the workshops. Many workshops are only offering different options when it comes to parts like tyres to around half their customers, and safety advice just isn't consistently reinforced. That's not because the technicians aren't capable, it's because the conversation isn't standardised. So it depends who's discussing the options on that day. I'd also reframe it. This isn't upselling for the sake of it, it's advisory work. Giving customers good, better, best options on parts lets them choose based on budget and how long they're keeping the vehicle. That builds trust, and trust brings them back. The barrier is visibility again. If you can't see what your jobs had an advisory raised, which were converted and which quietly disappeared, you can't coach the team or measure the uplift.
So, looking across all of these challenges, what do you think separates those businesses, the garages and workshops who are succeeding, from those who are struggling?
I think the common theme is control and visibility and an appetite to evolve. The businesses performing best aren't necessarily the biggest or the ones spending the most on technology. They're the ones that have a clear view of what's happening across their actual business. When you have that visibility, decisions become easier, teams become more productive, and it's just much more easy to protect those margins.
So we've talked, a lot around convenience being a major factor for where garages and workshops can differentiate their business from the competition, and that there is, growing expectations from consumers in terms of that convenience. Next, we're going to do a quick product demo of our e-commerce solution, which actually can really help your business transform in terms of how it offers that convenience to customers. So let's take a quick look now. So I think e-commerce definitely demonstrated that it can be quite simple to implement these sorts of solutions within your business to offer more convenience to your customers. You know, convenience is now a big part of loyalty, and customers want that simple booking, clear communication, and confidence that their vehicle is being handled efficiently. So before we finish up today, I'm just going to check the Q&A section to see what you guys have been asking about. So we've got a question that looks like it's about customer loyalty. How can I get customers to come back to me instead of shopping around every time they need tires? I guess that probably does come back around to that convenience. You know, you can build that customer loyalty when it's easy for customers to do business with you. And, you know, as long as they've got that confidence that they'll have like a really good experience every time. We know that consumers obviously have moved to online, so they want to be able to search and compare and book and pay for everything online. You know, when it comes to buying their tires, when it comes to buying, you know, ticket for the movies. So when you offer that convenience, you know, through your website using something like our e-commerce solution, combined with sort of flexible payment options and make that booking process really straightforward, that really does sort of reduce the odds that they're going to look elsewhere. And I think the other part obviously is trust. If they have a really smooth experience with you and they get that great service, and you sort of encourage them to leave reviews as well, then you can just continually sort of strengthen your reputation. And over time, you know, as an independent business, that can become a real competitive advantage, because, you know, your customers aren't just comparing prices anymore. They're choosing, you know, a business that they trust and that other consumers trust as well. Next question. I've got customers questioning the recommended work. How do we get them to approve additional repairs? So yeah, that's definitely a big challenge. Obviously, you know, consumers aren't standing right next to their car when your technicians, when your team are carrying out those inspections. So it can be a bit difficult sometimes because they have to take your word for it that this is genuinely a repair that they need. So I guess that comes down to the more advice or, the more evidence probably you can provide. It becomes a bit easier to have those conversations with customers. So we do have a solution called TeamView, and it does allow technicians to record damage and attach photographs and add like detailed notes as well directly against the vehicle. So instead of trying to explain that problem over the phone and hoping that the customer gets it, they'll actually have visual evidence that supports what you're recommending that, you know, they work on. So then your customers can see exactly what your team is seeing, and that helps build that trust and will speed up the approval process, hopefully. Just having a look. Finding it harder to compete with national chains online who have bigger websites. It's tricky for independent businesses. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously one of the major challenges for an independent business is that kind of cost and complexity of when you're trying to get, you know, a professional looking website online. And obviously that's where those bigger businesses have an advantage. But it's interesting, we were talking around building that trust. I don't think necessarily customers are looking for the biggest business. You know, they're looking for one that will offer convenience and availability, and they want to build, you know, that trust as well and have a business they can rely on. But obviously you need to get seen. So you need to have some sort of online presence, and obviously something like a fully branded online store, you know, allows you to be presented in a bit more of a professional light online. And then if you can do things like accept bookings online, you can show when, you know, your availability, and you can process the payments on, you know, that website. That's essentially mirroring the same experience customers are getting from those larger businesses. And then obviously you have the advantage of, you know, kind of strong customer reviews, hopefully. You're building a bit more of a reputation within your community and that local service and trust. You know, that means you can actually compete a bit more effectively with some of those bigger businesses. Someone has just said a question. It was interesting learning about challenges what else? How else can I learn about some of the other challenges that other customers are having? I mean, obviously, we've talked through a lot of challenges today. One thing I did actually want to talk about, though, in the webinar, which kind of leads on nicely to this, is that we do have these fantastic communities that the Clipboard team have set up. So we have the AutoWork online community, and I think, yeah, it probably would work perfectly for this sort of situation. If you're wondering how other workshops are handling certain challenges, or if there's, people might have identified better ways of doing things, then it's a great place to kind of talk to other Clipboard customers around the experience that they're having. So you can connect with other garages, you can ask questions, you share ideas. We're finding, that a lot of these independent garages are really learning from each other because they're understanding how other customers are using AutoWork online every day. So you can actually kind of pick up quite a few tips and see what's working for others. So essentially, it's a good place to share best practices, you swap ideas, and you get answers to questions. I do know that our community marketing managers are actually launching our customer advisory board soon as well. So that will actually give more of a direct line to our team, so you can share feedback, tell us about the challenges you're facing, you can discuss future priorities, and you can actually help shape the direction, of the solutions that we're working on. So it's all about making sure that we're building the things that matter most to you. But yeah, going back to that community, one of the best things about it is that obviously your voice genuinely matters, and the more feedback, ideas, and experiences are shared, the better we can all learn from each other. So if you haven't joined yet, we will send a link around following the webinar, so you'll get the webinar recording and also a link to the AutoWork online community. So I definitely recommend you join and get involved in some of those conversations. Thank you for joining us today. If we have missed off any questions, we will be answering them following the webinar, and we'll be in touch with you if you want to sort of understand a bit more around our solutions or book in a demo as well. But thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time.